South of the border, changes are brewing in the Democratic Party. The new phrase more commonly heard now is democratic socialism. It's a leftward movement which encompasses policies like free childcare, rent freezes, a higher corporate tax. This move has escalated internal party tensions as progressive insurgents challenge establishment Democrats. Just last week in New York, 3 far-left progressive candidates unseated incumbents in congressional primaries. And 2 of them were endorsed by New York's Muslim mayor, Zohran Mamdani. At one victory party, crowds chanted Free Palestine. Pastor and author Dr. Michael Youssef is writing about this new political union in his new book called An Unholy Alliance, How Progressivism Brought About an Islamist Invasion. His program, Leading the Way, is broadcast here on Miracle Channel. Dr. Youssef, thanks so much for joining us today.
It is my pleasure, Janet. Thank you for having me. It was great to be with you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so this is not a new topic for you. Years ago in the 80s, you wrote a book called Black Gold and Holy War, and another book called End Times and the Secret of Mahdi. What alarms were you sounding off at the time there?
Well, the alarm has always been born out of my own experience. Growing up in the 50s and the 60s in Egypt, we had this unholy alliance between the Muslim Brotherhood and the military juntas who conducted a coup d'etat and kicked King Farouk out of the country in 1952. And it's always the case, and I'll give you several examples of history, when these unholy alliances are formed, as soon as one of them become more powerful, they'll kill the other or destroy the other or do whatever they do to the other. Mm-hmm. And so I have seen that. I've seen that film many times, and I've seen what happened in 1954 and 56 in Egypt when the military coup succeeded and the military juntas came to power against King Farouk and kicked out the British out of the country. They turned on the Muslim Brotherhood and they kind of really tried to get rid of them. Well, what happened, they left Egypt and went to Qatar. And in Qatar, they received a warm welcome and were given a television station that is absolutely propagating the world now. It's called Al Jazeera. These are all members of the Muslim Brotherhood that were thrown out of Egypt back then. And but if you fast forward, just to carry on the same theme of the Unholy Alliance, in 1979, when the revolution against the Shah, it was led mostly by highly educated leftist thinkers. And they led the revolution, they kicked the Shah out, and then the man in exile, the cleric Khomeini, came from Paris, and he brought all the clerics, and they took over, and he literally killed all those leftists who have led the revolution. So that unholy alliance will somehow, some way, sometime, they're going to turn on each other. But unfortunately, there are so many foolish people, and they really think that they are working together to destroy Western civilization. And this is happening in England and Australia and in Canada and the United States. It's everywhere now, all over Europe.
Yeah, it looks like you really need to understand history to see what is happening in the future, and it could repeat itself. So what do you think is driving this current mix of progressivism and Islam?
Well, they have one thing in common. They both hate and want the destruction of Western civilization. Now, Western civilization, and I can say that because I'm not from the West, but I came to the West for seeking freedom. And the Western civilization is built and is a fruit of the Reformation. It's the biblical foundation that brought about the freedom of religion, the freedom, and the prosperity, and the respect for individual lives, and all of these things that we take for granted in the West. They were really the fruit of the Reformation 500 years ago. But they hate that. They wanted authoritarianism. They wanted to have power. And which one of them are going to have the power in the end certainly remained to be seen. History given the historical precedents, the Islamists will have the upper hand, sadly, and look what you have a sign that says "Queers for Palestine," okay?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you say fine, but do you know
it's an oxymoron, really?
Yeah, that they take homosexuals from high-rise buildings and throw them down.
Yes.
We as Christians love everybody. We don't do that. But that's what they will do. One of the leaders of Hamas was tortured and then killed of the suspicion of being homosexual. Just a suspicion. I document all that in my book, An Unholy Alliance, because I had 25 pages of documentations and footnotes, because I don't want somebody to say, where do you get this? Where are the evidence? So I have it all there. And the sad part is that it's not going to end well, and it always, whoever is the strongest and the mightiest and the most vicious and really the most brutal is going to win.
Oh my gosh, that paints a really dark picture there. In the book, you talk about New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani. So, what is your concern about him?
Well, he is actually Exhibit A of trying to embody both socialism or leftism, really is a Marxist, and Islamism, and he now, for those who are trying to form that holy alliance, they said, look at this good-looking, smiling guy, and he embodies both groups. And now somebody said, actually a Democrat leader said, he's now the spokesman and the leader of the Democratic Party. And another Democrat thinker that I have known for years said, we've got to have a break between the real Democrats and the socialist Democrats who are taken over. They really are Marxist. And you see, in both of these groups, the Islamist and the Marxist, they believe that they want to build their utopia. And it's a different kind of utopia from their point of view. But they have to destroy the status quo first. Karl Marx said, if we create that division between the proletariat, the working people, and if we can create that division and keep hammering away at that division, and then there's a collapse, bourgeoisies is the word I'm thinking of, the bourgeoisies and the proletariat. And he said, when you destroy that, you build your communist utopia on that collapsed society, and collapsing of the family, destruction of the family, all that part of their strategy in the communists. Now, the Islamists also believe that their prophet, who was persecuted by his own tribe in Mecca and escaped to Medina, which back then was called Yathrib, came back, immigrated back, and brought a division within that tribe, and he won, and therefore destroyed the status quo, and then he built his utopia. So they both have that kind of strain of thinking in their strategy. But the problem is, if they destroy the greatest civilization in the history of the world, what's going to come out is not going to be pretty at all. And history, 1,400 years of Islamists invading Christian lands. See, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, all these for 600 years. North Africa, Libya, Tunisia, Morocco, were all Christian lands for 600 years when the Arab Islamists invaded. And then they brought Islam and they forced it down on the populace. And of course now, a very minority, small group of about 10 million out of 100 million in Egypt, and then Lebanon and Syria and all of these Christian lands, because that's what Islamization does. It does not tolerate other religions. It does not coexist. They have to dominate. because that's what their book told them.
Well, we're almost out of we're out of time, but I wanted to mention that your book has a 12-point action plan. So what is this action plan, like in a nutshell?
Well, the first and the most important is I want to wake up the Church of Jesus Christ. I want to wake up, actually, not just the Christians, but I want to wake up every freedom-loving person to realize what the facts are, to know what the truth is. And then I am deeply concerned about the children, because that's what they're doing now, indoctrinating the children. We need to instruct the children. And then we need to pray. And also we need to go out of our way. I tell people, I love the Muslim people. I have proved my love for the Muslim people by having a television station for the last 17 years, 24/7, going into 260 million homes in the Arab world, of reaching to them with the love of Christ. And when you love somebody, you want to give them the best that you have. And the best that I have is eternal salvation through Christ. And therefore, I tell people, I said, I have no hatred in my heart whatsoever. I do love the Muslim people, and I want them to come to Christ. And therefore, Christian believers, that's the audience that I'm talking to, they need to go out of their way to love and reach out to the Muslims and share the love of Christ with them. It's very important.
Oh, thank you for that. With that, we're definitely over time here, but Dr. Michael Youssef, thank you so much.
Pleasure, Janet. Thank you for having me again.
Dr. Youssef's new book is called An Unholy Alliance, How Progressivism Brought About an Islamist Invasion. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thank you so much for watching.